According to a new study, young Americans trust professors more than the police and the military. But then, according to the current riots, it seems young Americans believe that statues are the same thing as living people. I'm Dr. Duke, she's Katie, and this is The Dr. Duke Show. Hello everyone, and welcome to The Dr. Duke Show, the only program that keeps you educated on the craziness impacting K-12 classrooms and college campuses around the world. Today we're starting off with a new survey that finds young Americans trust their left-wing college professors vastly more than they trust the military, police, and even their own pastors. College kids still have pastors? I didn't know. So yes, this is a utterly unsurprising thing, but it's the kind of thing that you should say to mom and dads. When was the last time you saw a professor in the news for something that wasn't stupid? Seriously, when was the last time you heard professor invents or professor cures cancer? No, what do you get? You get professors diagnosing Donald Trump, right, for being an obese psychotic. You get professors calling out American life, calling out heteronormativity, calling out everything. These are the people your kids are modeling themselves after, mom and dad, because we're sending them to these indoctrination factories, and all they're doing is taking one great giant collective dump on every other aspect of American culture. Who do you think taught your kids to hate the police? Who do you think taught your kids to hate American culture? Who do you think taught your kids to hate our history? Who do you think taught our kids to hate everything that they hate in all of the ways that they hate it? And so they're trusting this, to me, and again, I'm not saying this on a moral plane, but this is almost like the Hitler Jugend, right? What did Hitler do? He took kids away from parents at very young ages and made them devotedly loyal to him no matter what. What are these college professors doing? They're taking these kids from their homes and they're turning them against every aspect of American culture that many moms and dads want to send their kids there in the hope that they will protect and defend. It's time to give a serious thought about this. If the average young person thinks that college professors who don't risk their lives for anything, who don't physically stand to protect anything, who cheer on the destruction of other things, who wouldn't dream of joining the military, who have nothing but contempt for those who have kept us free, including their right to free academic speech, if that's who they're advocating, that's who they admire, it's time to really figure out ways to get them better role models.
It's actually interesting that the way you say that, because I actually just saw on the Facebook a college student, someone I went to college with, posting a thing about someone saying, you know, the thing I love is when the right-wingers get all hot and bothered about how when kids go off to college to these liberal places and they start thinking more liberally, that basically just means they're finally getting an opinion of their own. And I'm thinking to myself, no, that's not what's happening at all. But clearly, you've learned a lot in college.
Yeah, and the arrogance of that, right?
Yeah.
That I didn't have any beliefs. My parents don't believe anything. They're just robots. My parents don't believe anything. They're just shallow people. All the Americans who've lived before this moment, for us young people, had no opinions.
Exactly.
Then we go to college, right? And then it's like we go from the black and white world of Kansas to the rainbow-colored world of Oz, right?
It's amazing.
It's the smugness. It's the smugness of this.
Just so everyone's aware, this survey was conducted by YouGov, and they conduct a lot of polls, and we've actually reported on a poll that they've done previously that asked basically the same exact questions. And so this one is actually a pretty small sample size, but realistically it can be pretty much extrapolated out to the rest of America. The survey actually had 147 young Americans, ages 18 to 29. And then they had a broader survey where they interviewed over 1,000 adults and in all the key age demographics. And so they were asked about, rating their trust in these key institutions. And obviously, they don't trust anyone.
You know the survey that we have to see, and I urge YouGov to do this or somebody? Who do you trust more, your professors or your parents? That would be a very illuminating survey.
Ooh, but that would...
What would you...
See, they would...
I'll bet you more than 50% would trust the professors more.
But they'd have to break it down because you can't just say your parents. It's your guardian or your
family. Who do you trust more, your family?
Oh, if you use that term, family,
yeah,
that's what's
Yeah, so you trust
happen.
more your family or your professors?
So the exact percentages, when asked how much they actually trust the police, 38%, only 38% said that they hold some or a great deal of trust. And that's actually a 30% decrease from just last year.
Of course it is.
Of course
and
it is.
that shows you something else. How the power of universities to sway people's opinion in one short year or semester is staggering.
Well, I think it just shows that no matter what is said, yes, I'll believe that. Okay, until I'm told not to. That's
right.
That's where you become the robot.
And you just pointed out something, you hinted at it a moment ago, that these kids have no idea that the same critical lenses they are asked to reflect back on their families and their country could be reflected on what their professors are telling them with great exposure of hypocrisy. Again, I say this all the time. Our college professors almost unilaterally don't put their necks out for anything. They're using their classrooms like churches, their dioceses, their podiums like altars, to teach these kids to go out and actually forcibly. You got archaeology professors teaching kids how to pull down monuments. You've got museum curators teaching kids how to destroy monuments and deface buildings now. What you've got here is a criminal syndicate of professors who have figured out a way to get young, ignorant surrogates to do all their crime for them. So the results of the crime intellectually belong to teachers, but they can't be gotten for it because of their hold over these idiot students. That's literally the culture you've created.
Well, the one positive of all of this is that actually the 65% of these young Americans who say they trust the universities is actually a decrease in the percentage from last year, which was 74%. So we're down 9%, and I'm guessing it's because of the whole corona. So they don't,
I'm sure
it'll go back up once they get back on campus and in their little enclaves.
I repeat what I've always repeated during these stories. Where are the protests against campus? Your professors are gouging you. Your university are overcharging you for an education that means less and less. They're taking more of your money, more of your time. They're burdening you with excessive debt, all to feed not the faculty salaries, but the bloated salaries of administrators. If you really want to protest something, protest the universities. We keep hearing about how these lying feminist statistics, 1 in 4 girls on a college campus is sexually assaulted. Okay, let's pretend it's true. Then protest it, right? Keep whining about how white the university faculties are. Why aren't you protesting them? Why are you listening, you idiot kids, listening to them when they send you out into the street to protest everything they're doing wrong on somebody else's dime?
Now, here's a question for you. Have you ever seen Joseph in the Amazing Technicolor Dreamcoat?
No. I've read the story of Joseph in the Old Testament.
Okay, well, in the musical, there's a song called Grovel, Grovel, and the lyrics go, grovel, grovel, cringe, bow, stoop, fall, worship, worship, beg, kneel, sponge, crawl. And that's what this next story reminded me of. At Oxford University in England, it's not in America. Let's just note, Oxford is in England, not in America. That's important. It's not anywhere near Minneapolis, but students at Oxford are traumatized by the killing of George Floyd, who was killed in Minneapolis, which is in Minnesota, which is in the United States. And they were so traumatized by this that they had an open letter that was signed by the university's vice chancellor, Louise Richardson, and all the heads of the houses came together because students had sent a letter to them, so they're sending a nice open letter back. In the letter, it states, "Dear students, thank you for your letter expressing your concerns for the welfare of black students at the university at this time. We are writing to you as a group of individuals who care deeply about our university. We appreciate you writing to us, not least because we share your concerns about the traumatic effect of the brutality which killed George Floyd and which is a manifestation of institutionalized racism. The collective failures to address attitudes and behaviors which amount to discrimination are still prevalent in many institutions, including higher education."
Yeah, the simpering of university administrations. I mean, literally the people who are in charge of universities will not challenge, will not debate, will not engage. Whatever you send us, we'll get back to you. We had this stupid brouhaha at the university I teach at when some kid off campus, a student, a UW-Oshkosh student who was on his own private residence, was engaging in making stupid racial comments on his own private Instagram, which became a university problem. We have to hunt this kid down in his house and put a bullet in his head. But then they had this really simpering, whiny little let's all get together, and all the administration showed up, and you got all these deeply white people standing up and I'm an ally. This ally stuff, really? Does that mean because you call yourself an ally now that you are free from all the criticism? That all of a sudden, because you're a big liberal provost at a university, you declare yourself an ally and everything is okay? Because you know what happens when you do that? That's carte blanche to do what these kids are doing now, which is demanding every statue on the campus, anything that's any sculpture, any statue, even statue of people who were progressives in their own day must come down. We have that image now of St. Michael and the angel. And the devil. We've seen these pictures, right? With St. Michael is on top of a devil with his foot on its head, driving a spear into the devil. This is an iconic image of Michael the archangel defeating Satan. And this now is Black Lives Matter outrage. So understand what these kids, by being uncritical allies of this, right? By not defending speech, by not engaging in with these kids about their incredibly sweeping, simplistic assumptions about Western culture. No. You're an ally. And what you being an ally gets is that statue has to come down, because after all now, the angel is actually the racist. The devil is the victimized minority. And so this is what it's come to. And your uncritical, whatever you want us to do, we'll do ally nonsense. Fixes no problems. What you do is you undercut the purpose of universities. Your job, pal, at the university, provost or chancellor or dean or vice, is not to be an ally of anything. Your job is to be a mediator of the free exchange of ideas. You are not doing that when you blindly and cynically ally yourself to the loudest progressive voices on campus at the expense of everything else.
Well, in Oxford, at least, they're not saying anything about statues or that at this point. They more are concerned about their grades and their homework and their tests.
And not having to do anything to get
exactly. So in the letter that the heads of the houses all signed, they basically advise students on how, if they feel their performance might have been affected, how to plead these mitigating circumstances. In the letter, it says the heads of house signatories of this letter will alert all college academic and welfare staff to the potential need here, and will urge those colleagues to reach out to any students who may be experiencing difficulty at this time. So if you want to slack off, the letter does state how to have a reduction in your workload. The heads of house signatories of this letter will alert college tutors, senior tutors, tutors for graduates, and welfare staff to the potential need here, and will urge those colleagues to reach out to any black students who may be experiencing difficulty at this time.
I just remember when 3,000 Americans were killed in the 9/11 bombings. I remember it dearly. That you did not have this kind of solicitation for American students. You did not. You did not get. I mean, there were, psychotherapists were available, and they did take some small steps. But when you think of the magnitude of that disaster and what we're reacting to now, I mean, it just shows you in the space of less than 20 years, how far removed we are from this idea that that we have, as adults and civilized people and educated people, we have to keep the old-fashioned British statement, right? Keep calm and carry on. Right? I mean, no more. Every trauma now must be dealt with as if it were, as if we all of us just walked out of the gas camps at Auschwitz. The people who really need those traumatic things, every little thing that happens, every microaggression now triggers us in such ridiculous ways.
And that's where I just listen to the language they use at the end of this letter. And this is when they truly bend the knee. They say, "We recognize and regret that for black members of our community, the unfolding crisis together with the disproportionate impact of the pandemic on their communities has caused them particular anxiety, anger, and pain. We stand with them during these difficult moments with hope that through the global mobilization of many against these injustices, through education, discussion, and peaceful protest, we may work together towards a world free of systemic racism and discrimination."
There you have it. I'll be completely honest with you. I didn't listen to a word you said. Once you started quoting them, it was just all Charlie Brown and his teacher.
Which is nothing new.
Wah, wah, wah.
Back here in the States, at the University of Florida, we have students basically. Now, if it's not taking statues down or trying to get their good grades, it's trying to make certain classes mandatory while actually getting rid of all of the other ones. So at the University of Florida, they want to make an introductory humanities course mandatory to all the freshmen. And the course, of course, is called Race, and racism, and it would be replacing What is the Good Life?, in which students examine works of art, music, literature, history, religion, and philosophy as an invitation to the humanities and to a lifetime of reflection on the human condition. So we want to get rid of all of that to get race and racism. And Sarah Klein is the one who was so bravely.
That sounds a shockingly white name.
Yeah, so bravely started.
Shockingly white girl.
This change.org
Shockingly.
petition, and it of course has more than 25,000 signatures. In the petition, it states, "Our own demographic breakdown shows that white students make up a 56.62% majority of the student body at UF. Black or African American students make up only 6.97% of the student body. How is the University of Florida supposed to offer a quality education and adequately prepare students for their future when our demographics are not representative of the society we live in?"
Listen to that ridiculous statement. That I can't function in life unless statistically every day, everybody I meet, when I walk into the grocery store, the numbers must balance, right? There must be 13% African Americans. There must be 18% Hispanics. And if it's not, how can we function?
She asks, how are students supposed to learn about other backgrounds, cultures, and perspectives when we are surrounded by a white majority?
The idea that you would make me have to get on my cell phone and look up diverse things, or turn on my TV and watch diverse programming, or go to see movies with different race people in it, or to actually leave my stupid white bread Florida town and go to New Orleans, all those things. You can't ask me to do that.
I mean, we can't study these works of art, music, literature, history, religion, and philosophy because...
And that's the lie. Because if you believe for 1 second that this humanities course was just studying all those things from the perspective of white people, you know as well as I do what's happened here, right? That this humanities course long ago has been diversified. In fact, if anybody wants to bet me this, go ahead and take a look. Somebody look at what that, probably online we could find out. What are the books? What's the music that in this What is the Good Life course?
What's the syllabus?
I'll bet you a significant number, more than you'll find in the regular balance of races in this country. There will be a higher percentage of minority literature, music, history, all that stuff. You will see that women are overrepresented. You will see that minorities are overrepresented. So this is a course, like every other humanities course, has already been gerrymandered to be very, very inclusive and really not white, right? They've really got rid of the monochromatic whiteness of this. That's not good enough, though. Now it has to be just about race.
Yes, and I took the liberty to look up a university that Ms. Klein could go to instead. If she wants to go to the Bethune-Cookman University in Daytona Beach, it's a historically black college, but it's also a Methodist college, so she may not want to go to that because Christianity, you can't bring that in.
I'm sure the black overrides the Methodist.
This is true. But her petition, if you read the whole petition, it's kind of funny because Sarah talks about how she took the race and racism course and says basically it offered a safe space. So this was a place where we could actually speak up and ask difficult questions.
Because you can't do that
You can't do that anywhere else.
No.
And all of this, so you should read it. But she also says that she started this petition because she felt the need to do something more than just post on social media. That's exactly what they are doing. If it's not social media and then
post it on social media.
It's a petition.
So rather than deal with social media, she's going to use social media to write a petition.
I did something now.
She did.
I put that sign out in my front yard. So brave.
It's so brave to take courses that already are multicultural to the point of blaming all the evils of the world on white people, getting rid of that and replacing it with a race course.
Yeah, and to top it off, the professor who teaches the race and racism course says, I don't think this should be mandatory.
Is she white?
No, he actually says we need systemic change. Plus, white people need to seed, not lead. So he's still way over there. But at least he's like, I'm guessing he's like, I don't want to make it mandatory. That's more work for me.
And the implication that white people can only show solidarity by not participating.
Seed,
not lead. So what you're basically saying is, let's erase whites. Yes. Right? From all aspects. So let's just call it, this is not a race class. This is an erase race class, right? We want to erase race. And you're exactly right. There are a lot of black colleges in and around Florida. Go to one of them, right? Be a minority and boast then, right? I'm pretty sure she will not require, in the name of equality, what if we make the opening humanities course on the history of African-American culture on Bethune-Cookman, what if we made that open to all races? Somehow, I don't think her delicate sensitivities will be bothered by that.
It's time now for some real education. Gustave Cailloux was a French Impressionist painter and patron who painted in a more realistic manner than many others in the group. Born in 1848, Cailloux's originality lay in his attempt to combine the careful drawing, modeling, and exact tonal values encouraged by the Academy with vivid colors, bold perspectives, keen sense of natural light, and the modern subject matter of the Impressionist movement. He died in 1894.
Yeah, it really is a shame that Cailloux is one of the great Impressionist painters who doesn't get, nobody knows his name, right? You mentioned the name Cailloux, no, people don't know. Yeah. Everybody knows about Matisse and Renoir. All those guys are, even if you don't know what they are, you've heard the names. But this is a special kind of a painter, and I think he's one of the most interesting painters of the entire Impressionist movement. If you throw the painting we're going to deal with up here, this is, in French, Les Rabatteurs. It's the floor scrapers. It was painted in 1876. It's oil on canvas. And look at that. I mean, this is right when photography is beginning to take off. This is a photographic realist painting. It is so realistic, I mean, that it defies the typical conventions of Impressionism. If you think of pointillists, for instance, like Seurat, it's about as far as you can get from that, right? Or you think of the water lilies. You think of paintings like that when we think of the Impressionists, but this is genuinely impressionistic. I mean, look what it does. First of all, look at the play of light and shadow in the picture. It is absolutely gorgeous. You're in a room that has apparently that one primary window, and there's a good deal of light coming in there, and you can just see how that light sparkles and shines and dances off the parquet floor, both the part that hasn't been stripped yet in the middle there, and then you can see the darker tones of the places where the wax and the coatings have been scraped off. These literally are floor scrapers. And the fact that these are working class men working with their shirts off in what must be a hot upper room in an obviously unair conditioned French building or salon, what you see here is really remarkable. I mean, this is a moment, an impression, a moment captured in time, where you see them in the middle of their toil in their work, a bottle of wine on the right-hand corner as a little libation in the heat, typical French, and the beautiful ways in which the parquet floor is being revealed, right? Those deep gouges when you're scraping. You could literally see it, even perhaps smell what it must have been like to be a worker laboring in those warm conditions. And if we think about what Impressionism is, right, among its many other things, we should take the title Impressionism seriously. You get a beautiful, really deep impression there. Now, this painting, which was so realistic and so almost photorealistic, beautifully done, was entered into a number of contests, didn't win. The Impressionists, the judges of these Impressionist salon prize contests did not quite get it. They didn't quite understand it. In fact, if anything, this painting was to some degree so realistic that it bothered them, right? As painting was moving in an ever increasingly obtusity, right? You went from Impressionism to, in short order, you were doing Cubism, right? And then in short order after that, you got Dadaism, and you've got Salvador Dali. I mean, you've got absurdist paintings. So it didn't take long. Then you get to people like Pollock, right? And you think about where over the last 120 years since the Impressionists, we've opted for more confusion, more obfuscation in our art and less realism. And Cailloux actually is able to paint a painting that is so realistic and yet so deeply impressionistic in what it conveyed, and a painting that actually was true to one ideal of Impressionism, the idea that everyday, ordinary, and average things and people were as worthy of artistic representation as kings and sunsets and panoramic ocean scenes. So on top of everything else here in this impressionistic painting, it's perhaps more impressionistic than some of Cailloux's leading colleagues, in the sense that he is actually adding something to this. He is capturing a moment that is very blue-collar, very working class, in a very socially conscious way. So always, if you have a chance if you like the Impressionists, or if you just like painting, check out the work of Cailloux. He died very young. And didn't produce as much perhaps as some of the others, but I think you'll be really pleasantly surprised to see how broad the Impressionist movement really could have been when you understand it in all of its implications.
It was so ordinary that it was extraordinary. Well, as always, you can follow us on Facebook and Parler. And if you have a question for our Friday Q&A, visit freedomproject.com/askduke or send us a message on social media. Now we're going to wrap things up today with our fun fact of the day. Oxford has more published authors per square mile than anywhere else in the whole wide world.
It kind of helps when you have your own press there publishing your own people.
A little bit.
I mean, I suppose if I could beat that. If I built this little space around me as the Dr. Duke Press,
nice.
I already will have beaten Oxford for having everybody who lives in my little neck of the woods will have been a published author.
Self-promotion.
Just
right
saying.
there.
Just saying. And that's going to do it for us. For Freedom Project, I'm Dr. Duke. She's Katie. Until next time, stay educated, my friends.